Okay. Okay, MS Pro lesson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we come to the next topic here on market surveillance. So the document is MS Pro 15. Okay, we are doing all the certification work here, and we are our clients are all putting the products on the market. But how sure are we that the products they put on the market is complying as what they have applied? Okay, so this is the reason why, one of the reasons why we need to do market surveillance. We need to ensure that the products placed on the market is still in continual compliance with the prevailing standards, the regulations, and our requirements, the certification requirements. So market surveillance will normally consist of a few stages, because to do market surveillance, we have to determine the requirements. When we do market surveillance, what is it for? Are we going in under to check on certain products, or are we going to do market surveillance because to a specific area to determine the products that's placed on the market there? Or sometimes the market surveillance needs to be done upon request from the regulator, MCMC in this case. Okay, so these are some of the reasons that maybe we need to conduct market surveillance. But most, I think, when the market surveillance is done, I think a lot of our certificate holders that goes through all the process with us will be happy. That means that we are doing this activity because we are providing a level playing field on the market, right? Because if we don't do this, then their main complaint is that they go through all the process, make all the payments, and then their neighboring shop there is selling the same product as them, but all are illegally imported, and cutting prices and that sort of thing. So this is a welcome, I think, move by us from our legally registered clients. So market surveillance here covers basically all locally or imported products that's on the market, because if we have got any local manufactured products from us here, but I think mostly they are all imported products. So it does not matter when we do market surveillance, we cover all these products. We don't, unless you want request by by the regulator that we only go for imported products, then we have to do that. So, okay, the core of market surveillance is basically a chain of interdependent processes, and that means we need to do inspections, we need to do the sampling. That means we pick the samples that we purchase from the market, and those samples have to be sent to the lab for testing, okay, because we need to verify whether they're still compliant with the standards. So that's why we need them to be tested. And then when we get the results, we have to interpret the results, okay? And if there are any risk assessment there, then we got to decide and make recommendations to our regulators. And we are also required to do analysis on our findings. It's just not plain reporting what we find and that's it. No, we have to make an analysis of the data that is with us. So market surveillance activities can be carried out proactively on the market and or reactively, as such like accidents or complaints from other requirements, other agencies. So market surveillance can only actually be done once the product has been placed on the market. Okay, if the product has been certified but it's not placed on the market, and we want to do market and we want to do surveillance of that product, that's not possible. It's only for products that's already placed in the market.
Yeah, what we call a site inspection, especially for markings, to check whether the production of the markings is properly or not. Okay.
So we need to verify whether the product poses a risk or not, or whether there are any non-compliance, right? So this procedure all will require planning, sampling, purchasing, verifying and reporting. Okay, we look at the definitions. Certification requirement. I think we are aware of these certification requirements. Market surveillance is the activity carried out and measures taken by public authorities to ensure that products placed on the market comply with the applicable legal, technical, and safety requirements, and thus do not endanger health, safety, or any other aspects of public interest protection. MC, you all know MC, yeah? If there's anybody who doesn't know MC, then it's a problem. Market surveillance team. Okay, who are involved in market surveillance team? It's a selected group of trained personnel. We don't simply get anybody who's not trained to go do market surveillance that will conduct the market surveillance activities. They have experience and knowledge in communications and multimedia products and related standards requirement, because you must be familiar with what kind of products, because when we decide, we plan, we want a certain category like Wi-Fi, you must be able to identify Wi-Fi product and not buy something else. And you're also aware of the standard that they need to comply. However, they shall not be involved in the conformity assessment process, evaluation of the sample. That means after the samples has been bought and purchased, then they will not be involved in these activities.
For example, let's say they dapat capture on the product is ZTE 123. So if ZTE decides to send in for certification, then this person is not supposed to do this product.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's going to be evaluator 2 that is going to do that evaluation for this ZTE 123. Okay.
Okay. Okay. The next one is the requirements. Agency shall ensure that its certification agreement requires, I think this is already in our certification agreement, that the client must make all necessary arrangements for us to conduct evaluation and surveillance either at their site or any of their outlets. So when we do market surveillance here, we shall confine our surveillance activities to those matters specifically related to the scope of certification. Among others, it's complying to standard regulations, and that they will look for that whether they have got a certification mark or label on them. So we will prioritize to ensure our actions contribute effectively to the protection of public interests and fair market. And we will cooperate with other custom authorities who give the permit for the product importation. Our surveillance will include evaluation, review, and a certification decision on the product sample in the survey. So certification marks or label found on the products will be validated and reported as well. So when a non-conformity with the certification requirement is substantiated as a result of the surveillance, then we will consider and decide upon the appropriate action to be taken. This is by the team will consider this and propose or recommend the actions to be taken. Okay, when planning market surveillance, it is important to decide where to sample products from or which economic operator to focus on. There are two types of market surveillance, as I mentioned earlier, the proactive market surveillance and the reactive. Proactive means this is a planned market surveillance activity, but reactive is in response to an outside event, other requirements. It is not planned.
So a lot of customer complain.
Yes. Plan one could be that maybe we have already got in our plan that
Schedule-
1 year
schedule
schedule market surveillance. Okay, on the proactive market surveillance, knowledge of the market. Here, the market surveillance team shall cooperate with the industry to identify their supply chains and market share and conduct market research among the end users. Third-party services may also be used to provide information if it can establish as being reliable. You can use information from third-party sources to conduct the market surveillance as well.
Yeah, this probably if the place is a bit far, let's say Sabah, Sarawak, all those so we probably engage the party. Okay, because it does not justify the cost to get one team to go all the way just to surveillance certain area, right?
Right. Maybe we can use it. We have got branches there later.
Okay, our service point.
Our service points. At the end of the market screening exercise, the market surveillance team shall have an intelligence-led overview of the overall size of the national market, the amount and the type of products supplied in the market. Yeah, we will have that data already, and the names and market share of the economic operators supplying. These are the stakeholders supplying given the products and the type of manufacturers, importers, and main channels of sales. So because when we go on the market and buy the products, then these are the information that we can gather as well. Here when targeting economic operators, basically these are the retailers.
The channel.
The channels priority shall be given to those that are most likely to break the rules. Sometimes we know, from information given by our other certificate holders or even by the regulators themselves to target certain of these retailers or channels.
Maybe like e-commerce sites, okay?
Yeah, the other one we can get feedback from the industry or the consumer organization, trade unions, or media consumer or through consumer complaints and other statistical data. So these are all valuable information for us to make decisions on where to do or conduct the market surveillance. So when we have targeted a given area, then we shall base priority on the number and severity of the non-compliant product found on the market. Okay. So to maximize effectiveness, the market surveillance team shall focus on targeting products produced in large quantities instead of single products, and or targeting products that have potential to have high impacts on health. Because here, simple reason is because the larger quantities one will have more users. When you target on a given area, then the priority should be based on the number of and severity of non-compliance products found on the market, okay, in that area. To maximize effectiveness again, we should focus on targeting product produced areas. I think they said no, repeating it. Yeah. Targeting shipments at ports of entry can also an efficient use of resource, as it can prevent non-compliance from entering the market. So sometimes when these products are being imported, they come in batches, and so we can conduct our surveillance on these batches as well, at least before they are distributed onto the market. Okay, the rest I think it's almost the same thing, but in GTUs.
We go to find compliant assessment.
So just touch on the reactive market surveillance. Because not all market surveillance activities can be planned in advance. So the reactive market surveillance is targeted by an outside event or in relation to a specific suspected offense. Okay, this can come from either like the KKMM, MCMC, or other regulatory agencies. Sampling. Okay, sampling here is on the getting the samples, purchasing the sample. Normally, we purchase the samples from the market, and they can be from various locations or even at a single location from various outlets. It all depends on the target of the surveillance. If agency has to pay for the samples, then the must issue a receipt. Every sample that you go and purchase on the market, you must have a receipt, because this receipt will be the evidence of the product and of the sales that you conduct.
Okay. Our agency will actually budget some money allocation to do this, especially for those very problematic models. Okay, if it's the government already clamped down and said cannot sell, yet we receive report still selling, okay, then we will require you to go out and buy the product with the receipt. Of course, you state the company name. So make sure it's the right company name is on the receipt. But sometimes the brand name and the company name on the shop and the receipt is different. So we want to know who is the actual one supplying that, making business out of it. Okay?
Yes. Because the receipt will normally indicate the address, but like what you said just now, the address on the receipt and the shop name is maybe not the same. So you must either get evidence, you can take a photograph of the shop where you purchase the product, because normally this is required specifically by MCMC when they do their enforcement, because we have got cases before where on the receipt they give an address, but it's the wrong address. So, and these cases normally comes up 6 months later from MCMC. So the purchaser forgotten the exact shop only where they buy the thing.
Okay, so normally we can actually, a simple way is ask them, if this phone got problem, where should I send? Because your receipt states different factory or different HQ. So should I go to this HQ or come to the shop? Then they say, come to the shop. I say, if this one is nearer, on the address, on the receipt is nearer, can you go there? So if they say, yeah, can also, then you tahu lah. Boleh lah.
The address is valid.
It's a valid address. Because if they give the address, cari, I understand they cari the tempat tu, tak ada alamat tu. Okay?
Okay, the next important thing is after you have purchased the sample, is the handling of the sample itself, because this is very important. Because the samples must be handled properly and should exclude, we do not want any tampering or damage on the product. Because this, if there's a case against them, these samples will be tendered in court. Okay.
Yeah. For example, if you don't handle properly, it drop already, crack. Then they say because the phone cracked, that's why you cannot communicate. If not, actually it's a working set one. Okay. And
again, here marking also is very important. Marking, that means must have a clear labeling on the product. That means the product can be identified. And finally, of course, is the storage. You must really store this in a very secure place, and probably, that the product is secure, that only a certain personnel only can access to the product. And tampering will also include the traceability here, because when you send in the products for testing at the labs, then you must trace on who is handling the product at the lab, and to have a given time so that you can collect the product again later on. And you must make sure that you collect the same product again with all the labels still intact. Because these samples are very critical in any cases of enforcement, especially if there's a packaging, then you must make sure that all the packaging are still intact. Sampling of large product. Okay, here, yes, basically I think during market surveillance, we don't really handle very large products. Probably the biggest that we have handled could be, talk about smart TV. If you get those 32-inch screen here, then they are considered as a large product. So the market surveillance team here will be involved in the compliance assessment of the product. So they cannot do assessment on that product itself. Assessment evaluation will be forwarded to our certification panel for decision. Okay. So during the product assessment also, we can ensure that whether this product is in our database, that means it has been certified and we've got the certification records and data in our database. Okay. If it's not, then this has to be reported to the panel. Okay, on the reporting, the panel will decide, and we will submit our recommendations to MCMC for their follow-up action. Other than that, okay, I think this is 511 process responsibilities I've explained just now. So there's a flow chart, okay, on the market surveillance processes. Here we do not take any action on the non-compliances, we just report them. Okay, that's all.
Any question? Any question?